G'day friends, welcome to today's YouTube video. My name is James, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new. Today I'm going to be talking about Collage Club for April 2022. These are the set of sheets that will be available for my members, and yeah, let's just get right into it. Tell you what I've done and where it's come from, a bit of the backstory to a few of these things, because they can be quite random sometimes. The first one is actually quite simple, just a black and white graphic kind of bold alphabet. And this is the first alphabet I think I've done in Collage Club. I've done lots of numbers and dates and things like that, but the full alphabet, here's I think the first one, and there's two in this set. The other one is really special, so I'm going to save that long conversation for the end. This one is just simply black and white, and I hand drew every single one of these letters. So there's some that kind of repeat in style and some just really stand on their own, but they're super fun to kind of mix and match. They give that like ransom note kind of effect, but it does look pretty cohesive, and black and white is always super versatile to use with lots of color. It kind of just goes with everything. So I feel like this will be a really fun, versatile set. As per usual, I have silhouette files. If I make them, I put them into Collage Club. And so that makes this super handy because now this is just a big sticker sheet for me. Oh, this one's cut right through, so don't mind that. I'll deal with that later. My machine, I think, was on different settings because I just upgraded the software. Anyway, the machine I use is Silhouette Portrait 3. All of this is usually listed in the description box if you want to know. The paper I use is from onlinelabels.com, and yeah, I think that's all that you need to know. Oh, my printer is a Canon MX922, which I don't even know if they sell those anymore, but that's good. I love that. Page number 2, got some mermaids on here. Here's the real fun fact about me. I don't name my files correctly a lot of the times. Mostly it's just misspelt, but this time I actually put the wrong month. I booked Collage Club for May, which made me think it was Mermaid, which made me then go and search for mermaid things. So there are a few mermaid things in here that I put in before I realized it was April, not May. I wasn't going to skip that month. So yeah, unfortunately, you've got a bit of a head start on Mermaid if you're a believer, if you're a supporter of the Mermaid experience. I don't know if I'll be doing it this year, but there are a few mermaid things in here, and ironically, there's no Easter things in here, so it's just all over the place. But what is in here, I actually really love, so it's totally worth it. There was Easter last year. Hopefully, you got that last year. Oh, and by the way, if you don't have anything, they're all on Etsy. Any previous months, because we only do that 4-month rotation, all on Etsy. So if you really do want some Easter, we had some really fab collage bunnies last year. This is Mermaid Lagoon at Tokyo Disneysea, a watercolor painting I did a long time ago. Some of these I drew in Australia when I went to the Mermaid Pond. There's actually a vlog of me in Australia. I think this was from 2019? Let's say 2019. It's one of them. I'm pretty sure it was though. I was drawing little Kokeshi dolls, and this reminds me of, does anyone remember Ruby Gloom? When I went through my emo phase in high school, I was big into Ruby Gloom, so this was kind of like a Kokeshi doll version of, it was the same kind of vibe. And I'm going to say vibe, I just watched Byron Bay's, my sister told me to watch it. It is such trash. I fell in love with the show immediately, but now everything's a vibe. Everything's a vibe, my sheets are a vibe, art journaling's a vibe, life's a vibe, so it's just going to be what it is. Ruby Gloom vibes. This was actually a sketch I did back when I put together my whimsical illustration course. I believe I was looking at plumb lines, or like the center of gravity. So this was just a quick sketch that I had done, but I've always really enjoyed it just as like a gestural, figure sketch. Someone had asked me, I had put out suggestions. I rarely do this, but sometimes I will ask for people's suggestions, only because I always have things I want to do anyway, so I don't really, I don't want to ask if I'm not going to do it, but I did take into account a lot of the suggestions people left for Collage Club, and I wanted to go with one of the most random ones just to see if I could actually do it, and it kind of turned out funny. Someone had asked for a donkey riding a camel on skates, so that is exactly what I drew here. I believe it was a bit of a, it was a bit of a joke, maybe a bit of a troll, but the request, not the actual person that said it. I did it anyway, and thank you for the prompt, because I did enjoy it. I thought it was kind of random, but I thought they're cute. This is from a sketch flicks I did of Baz Luhrmann's Strictly Ballroom. There you go. So if you were in Virtual Voyage 3, you might remember these. I've always loved these two. I think they're so classic. Another Little Mermaid from my Australia trip. She's from there too. And this is super, super, super old. I'm talking maybe even before no, it wasn't before I started art journaling. I did a little self-portrait like this before, like when I used to work on Disney Cruise Line, so back in 2015, and I had this obsession with kind of running a red stripe through the face. I don't know why. I think it was supposed to be blush one day, and then I just got carried away. But I did this picture, and it was supposed to be kind of a representation of my best friend and I. And yeah, I've always just kind of loved it. I thought it was really graphic. It really harkens back to, you know, those earlier days for me. So it's a bit, I'm going to say it's a bit vintage, but you can usually identify that with the chin swirls. I've since brought them back, the little G or the little 6 looking chin swirls. So, you know, maybe it's not the best identifier of the period that it was drawn in. Listen to me sounding like I drew this in the Renaissance. Anyway, it's kind of vintage. It's kind of early James. So I love that for me and for you. This is a whole page I hand drew, and pretty sure I have RSI now. This is mid-century modern shapes, very graphic, lots of black and white line work. Again, there's a lot of black and white in this month's set. Wasn't intentional, just kind of happened that way, but they are kind of the most versatile kind of collage elements to use if you do a lot of collage, and I wanted a lot of geometric shapes. I was tempted to give them to you blank, but then I thought that anyone who wanted a blank one could probably just draw the shape because it's just a circle or a square or something. So I don't think most people have problems drawing some of those shapes. What I did think would be fun is to actually give you them fully finished, whether this prompts you to do your own or to build on top of it, or you just want to use them as decorative elements. I decided to go kind of overboard with that line work detail, and I am still, I think, recovering from it. My poor hand. And then I got into a weird mid-century modern mood as I was procrastinating doing this. I was drawing princesses, Disney princesses. I think I did a few, and then I actually made a video. It's not a tutorial, but I do step through the process. We do Belle and Rapunzel. Rapunzel's in here as well. But the Alice I really liked, and I thought, you know, it might be fun just to do that take on it. And I had a simple version of her. But then when I put her with this page, I was like, how could I not? I have to go overboard. She has to get the mid-century modern pattern treatment. So, I mean, she just looks absolutely nuts. I love this style of illustration. I love this period of illustration because to me, it really all goes back to the visual language of the development of Disneyland. And a lot of the concept art that I love is from Disney's movie, like the kind of art style development through Disney films and through the Disney parks. So this always kind of feels very connected to things that I love, even though I don't really regularly draw with this mid-century style. I do take a lot of influence from it. So love that. Here, oh, there are the princesses. So we got Jasmine. This was my little thumbnail sketch of Alice before I drew her. Snow White and Tiana. I love Tiana. She's got the most detail of all of these. I just felt like I couldn't help myself. And then Cinderella. We also have Rapunzel here. I colored her in the little like journal play video I did. I didn't color her in, so this is the colored version of that. With my new watercolors I got. I don't know, what are they, brand? Holbein. I got a set of Holbein watercolors. Sorry, not related. Oh, bump the camera. I got these. Holbein watercolor. It's called Trial Set. I got them from Etsy. They're really sticky. They're beautiful colors. They remind me of the Gansai Tambi watercolors, the Kuretake. So I don't know if they're kind of the same, but yeah, they're very sticky. They're beautiful colors, and they look so pretty in that tin. So I had a good time with those, but I'm still getting used to them and how they work. I literally got them the other day. Oh, eyelash. Make-A-Wish. I watched Turning Red, the movie that just came out on Disney Plus, the Pixar film. Absolutely loved it. This is my little red panda, and this is my Maylin. I did a sketch flicks of this. I was going to try and pretend like I didn't, but now that you're seeing these are some of the best images from the sketch flicks. So you'll probably see that sketch flicks pop up at some point, and I just thought, you know what, I can't hide it forever. There's going to be oh yeah, man, I probably could have hidden it. Either way, look away if you don't want to see them. Spoilers. Could you imagine I put spoilers on my Collage Club videos? This is a big pennant banner flag that Steve went up to see his family a few weeks ago, and he found this big felt pennant flag that he had from when he was a kid. and he brought it home and I scanned it in like 17 different parts. It's actually really big, and I sized it down. It's just like a vintage Disneyland banner, which I really loved. I thought the colors were super retro. Really loved that. These two, you're gonna see throughout the month, just a lot. There's going to be a lot going on. We are doing Virtual Voyage 6, Tokyo A Go-Go. So some of the elements that I did in like their like the pre-workshop kind of sketches and, you know, my ideas phase, I wanted to share some of that with you. Some of this will be, like, you will see more of this in the future, but it will be a lot more developed. Like, these were just my little sketches of whatever these might end up being. I think it's clearly obvious what they are if you do Virtual Voyage 6. But yeah, I put a few of the little things in there just as a little teaser for what's to come. And especially if you're not going to do a Virtual Voyage, but you do kind of follow what we do around these parts, it might be fun to just have some of that imagery. This is a little journal from that as well. And this is a little Sailor Moon from that as well. Does not mean because you see this is what we'll be doing in Virtual Voyage 6. I know that seems like maybe something I shouldn't say, like maybe it's too obvious to be saying that, but I always want to cover my bases. I could change everything at the last minute. It may not even be Tokyo Go-Go by the time we get there. No, it will be, but just so you know, like, just because you see it doesn't mean that's what's coming. I don't want you to sign up thinking like, oh, that's going to be in there, I'm going to learn that. Yeah, I'll be very clear about how much I can be clear about beforehand, but yeah, you will definitely, yeah, you'll see it. It's good. I'm enjoying it. So that's Virtual Voyage 6. This is also the last part of the set. I should just show you this and then I'll move this out of the way because the last 3 sheets, there are 8 in total this month. The last 3 sheets are the large version of this alphabet. So this alphabet is Fairies and Mermaids, and I hand drew all of these as well. I will say when I do the letters, like I didn't actually draw these letters. I get a template and then I print it out with red ink so that when I draw over the top of it, because I actually use my little corner pieces stamp sets. I've done a TikTok video kind of showing you a little bit of this coming together, but if you remember those little tiny corner pieces, they look like little Barbie dolls that were in little bikinis or like little swimsuits with big bows. I use those and I stamp them on there and I do a whole bunch of, oh, you know what, maybe I have it here. I did a whole bunch of sketches, like preliminary sketches on this. So this is kind of like I make a template for myself. Then I scan this back in again, make all of this red again, and then print that out. And then I worked on top of this at a much larger scale. Here they are here, the original sizes. So if you look closely at these, you can see this kind of red ink in the background, especially down here. You can really see like the changes that I made. This is kind of like my templating just to make sure that everything stays the same size, like it's all relative so that one fairy isn't like 10 times bigger than the other one. And the red ink is just because when I scan it back through in Photoshop, I can take out all of the red like as its own color. So when I take out all the red, all of the base, all of the template is gone. So you won't see it. You'll only be left with the line work that's on top. So that's how I do. I know I've explained this process before, but maybe in case you hadn't heard that before and you're wondering like, oh, did he copy this from somewhere? Yes, I print out the template, which is just like a font. I just put a font in and print it out. And then this is my stamp set, the little yellow pieces. And then on top of that, I'll print that out red and just follow over my own template. I don't think there's much, like if you think like it's cheating because I printed out the font, I don't think there's much virtue to, you know, drawing that out by hand. But if that's something that you enjoy, then I'm happy that you enjoy that. Yeah, for me it's not a thing, but a lot of the time I do this templating. I know it could be likened to cheating. I would just suggest that if that matters to you, then that matters to you. I think it's a really practical way to work, and it's probably one of the things that I don't mention often, but is why I can create at such a high volume sometimes, because that's a question I do get asked a lot. And I usually say like, oh, I use templates and I have all this back catalog of stuff that I can reference, so it becomes really easy. I also recommend people do that if they want to build some kind of continuity. It's much easier these days with things like Procreate, and I could get away with doing a lot of it on Procreate, like just drawing one template of the fairy and just, you know, multiplying it over everything. But if I have the manual components like the stamp set, then that's what I like to use, because I still like to draw with paper and pen, and I still like to print it out and have like a very physical copy of it. It just means that I have to double handle the process so many times. So those are all the red lines you see, or the brown lines you see, like all of those steps. That's just me templating throughout the process. But all the faces and fairies, like all the bits and pieces, like there's no template for that. We just decorate as we go. And here are the large size letters. They're not in alphabetical order in these sheets because they'd fit better if you move them into different places. Like if you try to put M and O next to each other, they get super cramped. And then if you put like L just up here with the other, like it's just too much. So not that you need to know that, it's boring information, but let's get on to why I actually did this. In full transparency, from the beginning, I mean, I love fairies and mermaids. I think that's clear, but fairies and mermaids are the things like that my gran and I used to color in a lot. Fairies in particular, with our coloring books. For those of you who don't know, my gran was like a massive proponent of I kind of every creative bone in my body. Like she engaged me with all of that and was like a dance mom, and she was super happy to like sit down and color in with me for hours on end. And she was also very outgoing and very, you know, she's just full of energy, full of life. And she passed away a while ago, and I had a lot, when I first started art journaling, I had a lot of her coloring ins that just were, you know, they're in the coloring book, and I still have a lot of them, but I wanted to kind of find a way to bring them into something special, because I felt like when they just sat in the box, there was nothing much to do with them. So when I started art journaling, I would cut out or like use some of her coloring ins, and I would put them into my art journaling spread. So it felt like we were kind of working together. And a lot of those I had also drawn, because Gran and I colored in so many coloring books. This is way before the adult coloring book phase that happened a few years ago. We had colored in so many that we were just repeating them by that point. So I used to draw new things for us to color in, and she would take them to the library and photocopy them. And so she would have a whole bunch of my illustrations, and she would color them in just tons of different ways. So when I started working on this alphabet, it was just an idea that popped into my head. I was just using the stamps, and I was like, oh, I think I'm just going to make these little alphabet, cute little things just sitting on there. And I thought, fairies and mermaids, why not? Because I love them. And then almost immediately as I started, I got this really overwhelming kind of, pardon me if I get emotional, I got this really overwhelming feeling that I was drawing these for Gran again, like that I was drawing her new fairies to color in. And so what was supposed to be just this tiny little alphabet with not much detail in there at all, like I was just going to give them wings and tails and, you know, call it a day, make a nice little simple alphabet. I decided to blow it all up to this large size so I could add tons of detail and make each one special, and like each one stand on its own as an illustration I could be proud of, because I suddenly felt this very personal connection to seeing this through and being proud of every single letter. We used to have a fairy letter coloring in book, so it hit me really personally in a way that I told Steve, I was like, I don't think I've ever really been hit personally like that, you know, in the moment. A lot of the times afterwards, I might reflect on something and see a lot of that personal connection and develop that kind of bond with something that I'm doing. And sometimes beforehand, like I'll intentionally go to dive into that space, but this just kind of happened out of nowhere, and it was really intense. Like I felt very emotional about it as I was doing it. Whew, I feel emotional just talking about it now. But all of that to say, I didn't really intend for it to start out that way, but then I almost felt like a personal responsibility to see it through. So this itself is just very, very special to me. I didn't want to color it in because the very nature of what Gran and I used to do together is color it in. So I wanted you to have the bigger versions of the numbers as well, just because these I feel like aren't as satisfying to color. And if you wanted to just choose your initials or something, that would be fun. I also decided to work in a really random order, so you probably won't be able to tell which ones I started with and which ones I finished with, but there was a really specific order that I worked in as well that just was also special, and it's not going to make sense to much, to many of you, but I'll just tell you. I worked with my gran first, so I spelt out Marilyn first. I'm getting so overwhelmed just thinking and talking about it. It just means a lot to me. So I am really happy to share this with you and see you color it in. If you have grandchildren, I'm not making this like you have to go and do this, but if you would, if you feel like doing it, I think it would be a really special thing for my gran to watch in heaven, and I feel like she's coloring these in heaven now that they're finished. She's having a good day doing that, and that's all I'm going to say about that. So that's it for me. That's it for Collage Club. There are 8 sheets. You know the rest of the information. It can all be found on the website, or the description box below has all of the information. And I will see you again another month. Thank you for watching. Bye.